Hello everyone and welcome again to our workshop on Solution Manager. Our workshop today will show you how to fast track your SAP Solution Manager upgrade and what's new in SAP Solution Manager 7.2. So if this is your first time attending, we run these workshops for the SAP community, and if you're a regular, we really thank you for attending. I would like to add that we run these workshops to give back to the SAP community, and as that's part of our company culture. As such, we make these workshops interactive with polls to get feedback and learn how we can make it better for future webinars. So we have polls throughout the webinar, so your participation in those are appreciated. So in the last workshop, we explained the value of SAP Solution Manager and how it offers rich capabilities to support the entire lifecycle of your business and IT applications. And in one of our poll questions, we asked how many of you have upgraded to 7.2 and was surprised to find that we had over 50% not upgraded. As such, we decided to run this workshop today to show you how you can fast track your SAP Solution Manager upgrade. All right, so just moving on with the agenda. So we're just going to do a quick introduction to a core ALM, who we are, and then we move on to the main topic, which is the transition to SAP Solution Manager 7.2. What's new and what is content activation? You might hear that quite a few times when you're trying to upgrade. And then what's the Solution Manager 7.2 architecture, and finally SAP HANA and Solution Manager 7.2, and followed by a Q&A session. So for the Q&A session, you can send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We collect these and address them during the session at the end of today's presentation. You can submit questions to us by typing in the questions pane in the control panel of your GoToWebinars interface. So a little bit about us. We are a dedicated team of experts focused on digital transformation lifecycle within the SAP ecosystem. There have been a strong team. We have a strong team of former SAP Solution Manager practice leads. We are a recognized leader with a proven track record to deliver ALM solutions and have been driving the adoption of SAP Solution Manager. We have worked with many clients like Apple, Microsoft, Harley-Davidson, Hershey, and many others, and been trusted by them to deliver results. Our main expertise is in Solution Manager, and we offer 10 functions in the ALM capabilities within SAP Solution Manager. So as you can see, we cover the whole spectrum from process management to landscape management. So we do cover everything here. And we offer a holistic approach to the Application Lifecycle Management. We have the resources to deliver services in managing your application lifecycle. And with the push to HANA, we also help companies with HANA conversions and upgrades. Next slide, Tony. So this is our expertise. As you can see, we cover the whole spectrum of digital transformation lifecycle and application lifecycle management. Okay. And some of our awards and certifications: we are SAP partner and SAP certified and run SAP implementations. So this is our first poll question, and it's basically what has prevented you from upgrading to Solution Manager 7.2. So your participation is appreciated in this poll. It's gonna give a few. Okay, thank you. I'm just going to close the poll, share the results. So I do see some of you might have been on 7.2, or I guess it's more of a time factor involved in why you have not upgraded to 7.2. Okay, so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Dominic Molodine, a senior SAP Solution Manager and ALM practice lead and experienced consultant with Core ALM.
Thank you very much, Ivan. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining for today's webinar. So as Ivan mentioned, we're going to go through the upgrade process, what happens, areas when you need to focus, what are the new things in 7.2, what do you get with it, how to continue to get support from SAP even though you haven't upgraded yet. So we'll address some of those details. And as you do think of questions, please record them and ask them down, and we'll hopefully have some time at the end to go ahead and answer those. So Solution Manager 7.2, the ramp up started back in 2016 and it's been generally available toward the end of 2016. And as of December of 2017, these are the numbers from SAP as far as how many customers have already upgraded. This is not necessarily the number of instances, but the number of customers. And about 350 customers have been upgrading, per month. So what we have noticed, as Ivan mentioned, is that a lot of customers were not aware that the maintenance for Solution Manager ended. Now, I just wanted to give you a little bit more detail because you might be impacted in other ways that you might not realize. The reason Solution Manager is affected is because SAP ended the support for Java stacks that are running on Netweaver 7.02. And in that case, Solution Manager Java stack happens to be on that release, or Solution Manager 7.1 happens to be on that release. Therefore, it got impacted as a system that's no longer supported. I mean, when I say it's no longer supported, meaning it's not part of the mainstream maintenance. There's still support that you can get from SAP, but it's not going to be part of your standard support. Surprisingly, we have customers that have just found out as well that they have SLD engines running on 7.02, they have other applications running on 7.02, and didn't really realize that has reached the end of cycle. So please do check in your environment and see where you are if you fall in any of those buckets. But as we mentioned, the standard support for 7.1 has ended at the end of 2017, so we're seeing increased interest in customers to upgrade. We're seeing interest from customers to ask us about failures during upgrades because they have attempted them, they had to restore back, or they accrued larger downtime, if specific functionalities of Solution Manager were already being used in the past. And we're going to dissect those. We're going to look at those, like specific areas that you're using and how you're going to be impacted by the upgrade. As we move forward, so transition to Solution Manager 7.2 kind of goes to the same thing as going to S/4HANA. Like, do you migrate? Do you switch over from an ERP or a business suite over to HANA, or do you do a net new implementation? So the ultimate recommendation in terms of Solution Manager is to upgrade to Solution Manager 7.2 because you do retain all the historical information that you have in there. That's not always the option, and certain customers decide to do a greenfield implementation of Solution Manager. But please do realize that you will be losing any of that historical data, historical transactions that you have about your upgrades, like anything in Maintenance Optimizer. Obviously, all those would be lost. But the recommendation is to upgrade to 7.2 from a 7.1 system. A typical Solution Manager Landscape, or not typical, but the typical recommendation from SAP is really to have, just like for any other application, to have a development, quality assurance, and a production system. However, with majority of our customers that we have seen, a majority of our customers worldwide, customers do run two Solution Managers. So one for development, testing, sandbox environment, and then the real production Solution Manager system. And if you're really not using, or if you're using out-of-the-box functionality, typically a two-tier landscape will be more than sufficient to support your environment. But if you're planning on having a lot of customizations, customizing a lot of the functionalities, then a three-tier landscape definitely makes more sense. And from a technical point of view, there is quite a bit that's changing from a Solution Manager perspective. The CRM functionality is pretty much the same. You have an enhancement pack version upgrade of the CRM component. Of the CRM component, I apologize. Then the PPM component gets upgraded, but the biggest change is the Netweaver stack. So what's going to happen is you're going to go from an SAP Netweaver 7.02 dual stack system, ABAP and Java, to you're going to end up, the ABAP is going to be a Netweaver 7.4. Same with Netweaver Java, it's going to be a Netweaver 7.4. However, the difference here is that the two stacks will be split. So it's not really a dual stack system anymore, even though the Netweaver Java and ABAP are integrated, or they work together to deliver the end-to-end capabilities. But from an underlying infrastructure perspective, they are two separate systems. There are different options that you can install the systems once you do the split, whether you go the HANA route or the classical database that you use today. You could go either route, and if your database supports MCOD, well, there are several things that you can do. You know, a different schema. You can build two separate database instances, because you are going to require two separate system IDs for this system. So essentially, they're going to be like two separate applications, but they're just working together, talking to one another to deliver the services that Solution Manager offers. So that's the biggest change from an infrastructure perspective. And then from an end user and functionality perspective, what really happens when you upgrade? So there are several areas that have been changed completely. There are some areas that only the front end has changed, but really what you're getting with the upgrade is the upgrading to new functionalities. So if you're familiar with specific functionality as far as solution documentation, you used to be limited to only 3 levels. That limitation has been removed, so now you can go as far as you really want in terms of hierarchy. The graphical process, so the modeling capabilities of the tool, you have an integrated modeling tool, so you don't have to rely anymore on an external tool to do your business process modeling. Support for hybrid landscapes, so if you're fully on cloud, if you're partially on cloud, hybrid solution, partially on premise, with the cloud connectors and all those pieces, the 7.2 ALM platform will really support. It's able to support you in pretty much any environment that you are. The key developments have been made in release management. That's been kind of redesigned to compare to how things are done today. And we will have webinars in the upcoming weeks and months across all different tools and pretty much all the tools that Solution Manager offers in the ALM platform, to really break them down to go, whether it's change management, testing. So you will have an opportunity to see how these processes, how one tool integrates with another, how they feed data to one another, and really how it can support you to support the environment, the SAP and non-SAP environment. The upgrade of the user experience, so that has completely been changed. It's, if you recall in 7.1, there are a lot of dependencies on browsers, different technologies, Flash, you name it, there were tons of dependencies. Pretty much everything has, for the most part, everything has been eliminated. Most of the functionality is available through the web interface. You don't have to necessarily have SAP GUI even logged on, besides some very specific functionalities that basis team needs to perform. Pretty much all the other end user or functional activities can be performed directly on the web interface. So and then all of that is delivered in SAP UI5. So it's definitely an improvement. The other thing you get is upgrade into the latest technology. So as we mentioned, your Netweaver foundation will be upgraded to CRM component within Solution Manager. The optional upgrades are to go to HANA, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. And really upgrading to a new maintenance interval. So if you saw a couple of slides ago, the Solution Manager 7.2, the mainstream support will go on till 2025. So really upgrading to the newest releases. And then you'll continue to receive all the latest updates, all the technology updates and support from SAP. One of the things that we mentioned, most noticeable improvements, is the SAP Unified or the UI strategy. So if you haven't had a chance to experiment with Fiori apps or with HANA type or S4 type applications, Solution Manager has its own launchpad, can be integrated with other launchpads, but it has its own launchpad, fully controlled by security. So visibility is role-based, just like it was in the past in terms of work centers. So you'll be able to really customize the logon page of each user, and then depending on the functionality, they can click on any of the tiles, and it'll take them into that particular functionality. As we mentioned, this SAP UI5 based or HTML5 based technology, which it makes it very flexible to be consumed on various devices. You know, whether it's mobile devices or handheld, different technologies that you access. The web with, so all those makes it much easier for you to deploy and for the end users to adapt or adopt these latest developments in technology. As we mentioned, the Launchpad is based on roles, so role-based access, and really supports pretty much all the web browsers and mobile applications. The other thing that's important to realize is that the embedded search in the Fiori Launchpad, what this allows you to do is, and you might have noticed with the SAP portal, and that's always a love-hate relationship, and some people really hate it, but the SAP Service Marketplace, several things have changed there as well, where, in my opinion and my experience, the searching has improved. And the same type of technology is being used here in the Solution Manager as well, where you, from one search box, you can really get in and dig into Solution Manager. So whether you're dealing with tickets, so you can search for keywords in tickets, change tickets, ITSM tickets in a document, so a title of a document, or keywords within documents. You can use wildcards. You can search the contents of any documents that you have in your document repository. So it's really come a long way in terms of searching capabilities. One of the things that got the most impact, that's been impacted the most, is the solution documentation. It has been rebuilt completely. So during the upgrade, so if you're running transaction like Solar 01, Solar 02, you probably have a solution, you have a project defined, you have transactions, test cases, and whatnot. And if you plan on using those during the upgrade, you're going to have to go through a process that's called the content activation. What content activation is, it's really a process of you analyzing the current environment, making adjustments as needed, and map it to the new technology as the way it's going to map out, or it's the way it's going to be transitioned into 7.2. The idea here is that we don't want to lose any of the data. We want to clean up whatever we don't need, and then allow for this process. So after the upgrade, when we do the actual content activation, all the documentation will be in the proper format. Now, if you're dealing with 50 documents, 20 transactions, that's no big deal. You can bring it over as is. But we have customers that have had 18,000 documents in the repository, tens of thousands of transactions documented. So kind of going through that process manually, it's really painful. So, there are some tools that SAP provides, experience that we could bring to the table to really help speed up this process. So during the upgrade and post-upgrade activities, you minimize the downtime as much as possible. So upgrading, and content activation, there are, depending on the version of Solution Manager that you're on currently, there's going to be, as little as 4 or 5 notes to as many as 80, 100 notes that you might have to apply to bring the system to a state where you are able to perform even the analysis of the current solution. Again, sometimes it sounds scary. Sometimes it is scary, but it's better to be informed, to do the analysis. And then, as I mentioned before, with help like like Core ALM, will be able to help you to hopefully minimize that pain and or just take away that the fear that what could happen in the upgrade, and we'll talk about that. And then you do the analysis, and then you execute the preparation. Once the preparation is executed, the upgrade is standard upgrade. You use the SUM tool, Software Update Manager, to really do your upgrade. So you go through an upgrade as if you would in any other system. However, after that, after the technical upgrade is completed, there are certain things that have to be done. Like the dual stack split, as we mentioned, the Java and Java have to be split. There are certain other activities that have to be done, like performing the content activation. Some things change, some new terms get introduced, so you have to configure some of the things in terms of logical component groups. But once you do all those, you will be on up and running on 7.2 and starting to consume those changes. Now, downgrade systems, if you can transport, ideally, that would be the case, is we could transport a lot of these nodes. They have a lot of manual steps, so we can transport those, again, use the SUM tool, and then try and automate as much as we can the process itself. Now, I do have to mention that during the technical upgrade, although it's a standard upgrade, and just like any upgrade of ECC or any other system, you're going to run into issues. There are some things that, at least four different issues that we've seen across all customers. Every customer has to, pretty much we have gotten stuck on those steps. The good thing was that we know we have those very well documented. We know the solution, we know the queries that we need to run, what needs to happen, what needs to change. We'll avoid those whenever possible, but and that's the idea, to fix things before you get into the SUM tool. But some of the things cannot be fixed ahead of time, so there are some things that are some pain points that you're gonna encounter during the actual upgrade, technical upgrade of the system. And so the question now is, when is the content activation really required? So here we have a full breakdown of, depending on what functionality you're currently using, that's going to determine whether you need to even worry about content activation or not. Now, technical upgrade, dual stack split, that has to be done no matter what, or migration to HANA, those don't really make a difference here. But if you have things like solution documentation, SOLAR 1, SOLAR 2, if you have change request management, quality gauge, test management, test cases, test automation, business process monitoring, if these pieces are configured in 7.1 and you currently use and you want to continue to use, the content activation will be required. The reason being is that these are the areas that have been affected the most. At the same time, some training is going to be required for these specific areas because things are going to change. Some of the terms, especially solution documentation, 80% of it's going to be different. Some terms are still going to apply, but majority is going to be different. So, as you're planning your upgrade, there's going to be a lot of things, that you would have to think about. And then if you're using like technical operations, although the front end has changed, really in the back end, there's nothing that you really have to do. Just re-execute some of the scenarios. Solution Manager has automated a lot of the steps. It'll self-heal or it'll fix things on its own and get you up and running. But the front end has changed. However, the back end, you don't need to worry about many things. So this is kind of hopefully helps you determine, which route you need to go in terms of the upgrade. Now, we have mentioned HANA a couple of times now. So Solution Manager 7.2 is the first release that's fully or that supports HANA, that runs on HANA and takes advantage of HANA. Some earlier versions, you could run them on HANA on some specific and special cases, but it didn't really take advantage of the HANA technology. So 7.2, it does take advantage, and we'll see some metrics here in a little bit as far as improvement, space, and all those things. So what's important is that recently, Solution Manager, even though it's Netweaver 7.40 release, it supports HANA 1.0 or HANA 2.0. So that's a recent development as far as HANA 2.0. So that's good news if that's the way you're going with the other SAP applications. So you can bundle Solution Manager as well with those applications if you want to. And best news for a lot of customers is that all of this, or the HANA license, is included as part of your maintenance agreement for use with Solution Manager. So if you use a HANA license for Solution Manager, there's no additional cost, just for the HANA license. Now, I just want to be clear that this does not include any hardware-related costs for on-premise or on the cloud, but it's only for the SAP HANA license. Now, what we're also noticing is that a lot of customers are interested in running HANA, but don't have the hardware that supports HANA, or don't have the bandwidth to expand or add new hardware, or whatever the case may be, or sometimes the expertise to run that. So we do have a cloud partner, and then multiples, in fact, that we can help you with, and we can help you migrate to HANA and get you to HANA, to different services that we do offer, from a hybrid mode perspective. So that's really useful for you if you're a HANA-only shop. You don't have to go back to purchase any other database technology, or if you're thinking about HANA, this could be your first system on HANA, so you can get your teams introduced to that, build your standard operating procedures, figure out the backup and restore infrastructure and all that before you deploy other systems on HANA. So those are some of the things. Now, we would like to know, as I mentioned, we do have different offerings. We just wanted to kind of get a feel if you would be interested in running a Solution Manager on HANA on the cloud. Something we can help you with, or with other customers, there's procedures to migrate. So if you would just take 1 minute and quickly just respond to the polling question, that we appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Ivan. Yeah, so there's looks like at least half of you might be into the yes and maybe state, and it's pretty significant interest, I believe, in running. So yeah, if you do have any questions or interest, let us know how we can help you migrate to HANA, help you make a decision on the partner, or even help you run it on HANA. Or there are some specific cases where you might want Core ALM to really be your AMS provider for Solution Managers. So we'd be more than happy to help you with those questions. Now, some people say, why HANA? Can we accelerate? How much faster it is? And these are numbers that were provided by SAP. So this analysis was done with 25 different customer systems were analyzed, running on new hardware. So you can see here, I'll let the numbers speak for themselves, but you can see the improvement on the database size reduction with the compression, and the decrease of average DB request time in dialog tasks in milliseconds, so from 238 to 118. So that's pretty significant increase in performance. And then other things that we're going to talk about here is searching and all those pieces. So one of the things that's been improved is the searching, and specifically if you go with SAP HANA as a database for Solution Manager. In that case, we can leverage the embedded search in the HANA engine for the searching capabilities. So it will be much simpler environment. If you decide, if you have TREX in the past, or TREX, and you decide to go with the traditional database, and in cases like Sybase, Oracle, DB2, and MS SQL, so all those databases, you would have to have a standalone TREX Java, TREX engine, and then integrate that with Solution Manager. So another advantage of going to HANA is really no need for separate TREX engine for the searching. upgrading and migrating. So if you decide to upgrade and migrate, the recommendation from SAP is to use the database migration option in the sum to really do the prep. During the downtime phase, there are certain things that are done slightly different with the database is migrated to HANA, and then the other option is to separate the migration as a separate task altogether. So you do an in-place upgrade and then just a migration. Both options work. There is some good things about the DMO option, or option number one. Definitely, there's some positives about it. There are some things, however, that a lot more stars need to align for you to have this happen. You know, all the hardware has to be there, and when you kick off projects, sometimes things don't go as well with hardware procurement, and that's what we've seen. But nothing wrong with step two. It's more with scenario two, where you do the HANA migration as a separate step. But definitely this either option will work very well for you, just depending on your scenario. Hardware considerations for the upgrade. Really, if you are using Solution Manager in the same capacity as you were before, there are some disk requirements, obviously, with new upgrade, new code base, there's a little bit more storage is going to be required. However, some of the things will also be sort of decommissioned, but for the most part, you're just going to need a little bit of extra disk space, and for the most part, that's it. If you're not adding, however, if you want to add new things to the new functionalities, if you want to enable in going to HANA, obviously those are going to change the dynamics and what is required. And so that's something that has to be analyzed and gone through the quick sizer and other different tools that SAP provides for you to be able to determine what needs to change. Okay, for upgrade and migration, so if you are thinking to go to HANA, there are some tools that are available. There's a report, there's a couple of nodes that are listed there. There's a report that you can run in your system currently to kind of figure out, to get a breakdown of what the size is going to be on HANA. Some formulas here that will help you in determining if that's something you want to pursue or not. Definitely helpful. There's a report that's also very helpful to kind of give you a breakdown. You can kind of do some things to clean up, to purge certain things that you no longer need. So I just thought we'd share those with you. Now, upgrade impact and resulting efforts. So, for the most part, we just, up until now, we've been talking about the technical pieces. Now, so what do you have, what if you have specific scenarios implemented? So if you have process management, if you have test suite, business process operations, and change control management, those are areas that are, vastly improved. But those are the areas that are going to cause you the most headache if things are not addressed, analyzed, and are not done properly. Other areas like operations, project management, ITSM, those have very low level of impact. So, you can, as we mentioned before, you can go through the upgrade and you'll just notice that the UI has changed, some functionality, some extra buttons, but for the most part, everything will continue to function. And, the portion of this, part of this webinar, that's what we wanted to bring up, is that, we've seen a lot of customers that have attempted to upgrade. Many have upgraded successfully. Some have ran into issues. And unfortunately, a lot of the issues that you could potentially run into, specifically with the highlighted areas here on the screen, are you're going to run into those issues after the upgrade's been completed. So you've done the upgrade, you're trying to use certain functionalities, and things are just not lining up. They don't show up. We've seen things in change management, for example, where fields labels have shifted by one row, if you will, and just like the label doesn't make sense for its position. So all sorts of things. Now, if you're in that situation, or when you get to that situation, is you either need to very quickly fix those issues. There are things that can be done too quickly. There are things that can be done ahead of time. There are things that can be done afterwards. But the idea is to get you back online as soon as possible, especially now that you have completed the downtime phase. And this is where it's important to really have somebody that it's going to help you, that has been through it before, knows all the things that need to be done. Because even going back might not always be an option, because by this time you would have done the dual stack split. So you might have installed a new database instance on the host. You've done the dual stack split, but now restoring is just not a matter of restoring the database and you're back to 7.1. There are other things that have to be done from an OS perspective. So it's kind of one of those things, it's hard to go back unless you have like a virtual image of the system and you can just quickly, restore from a snapshot. It's, several things have to line up again, even to go back. So this is where we stress and we feel that we can provide a lot of input and add a lot of value, specifically if you have these areas, and to help you really go through this process much easier with no issues. And we have done this multiple times. We've done several times, multiple customers, multiple systems with hardly any downtime or unexpected downtime. So I believe that's where we would add a lot of value. Besides the technical execution and besides the other things that I mentioned, these are some areas that do need a little bit more attention. Now, what can you do to bring down the upgrade efforts? Obviously, as I mentioned, there are things on the notes that you have to do, but there are things that you can do ahead of time, like the analysis of the project, see what you can get rid of, whatever you don't need, purging of all the early watch alert data. There's a number of things there listed on the bottom left corner where you have, the housekeeping and solution manager. There are certain things that need to be done, but in preparation for the content activation, the biggest thing is the cleanup and rearranging of things, for the content activation. So, and if you do those things, you'll definitely help yourself and minimize those windows, the upgrade window. Now, if you're in a situation where you have not upgraded yet and cannot do so in the immediate, we do have a customer that's in the middle of multiple projects, and they just said till the end of the year we cannot touch our solution manager because it's being used for many other areas around the clock, and they cannot even afford the one-day downtime or anything like that. So if you're such customer, what this means, I want to clarify some things. That you can still download the notes. You can still download the existing support packs for that release, for the old one, if you want to improve anything. If a fix exists, SAP will still help you for a fix that's already been identified. So, you can download notes, you can apply all those without a problem. Now, if you find something in your 7.1 system that requires new development or a bug fix from SAP, those are the areas that you're less likely to get support. Now, I don't know how clear-cut that is, but these are the areas. This is what we've heard and we've been told by SAP. So, and there is a note there that's listed on the screen that should help answer pretty much all the questions that you have. Hopefully you find this useful. Okay, and the migration path to HANA on the cloud. So as we mentioned, we do have partners that we have customers to either take Migrate Solution Manager to their own preferred partner, or if you don't have one, we can definitely help you, and we can help you with the migration. But similar scenario where you do the analysis and prepare, you upgrade, you prepare pretty much the cloud environment, you do the dual stack split and the migration of these. But sort of in this sequence, the migration to the cloud, as we said, that could be a later activity. So you could run the post-upgrade activities on premise and then move it on the cloud. So there's really different options there. But in a nutshell, this is what it is. So as far as supported browsers, really, there's not much limitation anymore to say that it runs on this version, but not that. Older technologies, typically it's about 3 years. 3 years, it's a cutoff where it'll be supported. It'll work anything that's about 3 years old. Anything older than that, it might not. Our experience has been that it's working on all sorts of environments. So it just depends on all different types of devices. I forgot to mention that the Fiori Launchpad for specific areas does have mobile optimized tiles or applications. So you might have an application that is, more for a desktop-based environment, but there's also tiles that display and render and format very nicely on mobile devices. So that's something that a lot of companies are finding useful. So with that said, we have covered all the areas that we were planning to cover today. Ivan, not sure if you have any questions so far by our attendants, so if you could read them out. So again, I want to thank you for your attention. And go ahead, Ivan.
Right, thanks, Dominic. Really appreciate your presentation. So as mentioned earlier, we have a Q&A session, and you can submit your questions if you have any in the questions pane in the GoToWebinar interface. So I'm just going to go through the questions that we have. Okay, so our first question is from Prakash, and his question is, out of all the upgrade you have done, what is the area which causes customers the most problems?
Of all the upgrades that we've done, so I'm assuming it's more of a functional. From a functional perspective, I would say the biggest has been, obviously, the solution documentation from getting the notes in. That's been the preparation of the activities. So everything in 7.1. If everything is done correctly in 7.1, once you go to 7.2, it should be pretty seamless at that point. But change management, I would say, and the documentation have been a bigger problem. And I would say a portion of that, what contributed to that, is also the training piece, the changes that are coming, with the new interface and the new concept that didn't exist before. So, they both contributed to those. But I would say those are the top two.
Okay, hope that answers your question, Prakash. I have a question here from Crystal. Do you provide an option for upgrade project oversight as well as full upgrade support?
Okay, project oversight. Okay, if I understand the question correctly, whether, from our offerings perspective, whether we can just support a customer while they do their own upgrade, or if, we will do it end to end. We have actually done both models. We do both models. So whatever suits you, whatever works for you. We have scenarios where we've executed the upgrades from the beginning to the end, and then encompassed, specifically for those scenarios that do have documentation, change management, and other areas, and business process monitoring, is that, we can come in and we will bring experts from each of those areas and kind of execute it as one wave upgrade and, address any of those pre and post processing. However, we are flexible, and we have supported customers before to where their technical teams perform the upgrade, and then we would support, depending on, on the functionality that they have deployed. From a technical perspective, is just really guide the customer and work with them to go through the upgrade of one or multiple systems. Hopefully I understood your question correctly.
Okay, Crystal, yeah, if that answers your question, just let me know. If not, if you have a follow-up question, feel free to ask. So again, if you have any questions, you can submit it through the questions pane in your attendee control panel. So I have one question here from Najid. What is the effort to get our charm back running again after the upgrade, 7.2 upgrade?
So what's the effort of getting charm up and running after the upgrade?
Yes.
It depends. I hate to give that answer, but sometimes there are some scenarios that we've gotten it to work, with one day business downtime. There are cases that it's gone up to 3, but that's very rare, because typically the production upgrade will be started sometime Friday night, the downtime phase, and going through all the other activities. But then it depends how many different transaction types are configured in change management, how many workflows, how customized are the workflows. That's why it's going to depend. Or it could be as simple as just, if it's vanilla charm or close to out of the box charm, I don't see a problem with it being done during the weekend. And then on Monday morning, after everybody's trained, users should be able to just show up to work and continue using it.
Okay, hope that answers your question, Najid. So I'm just waiting for more questions. While we're waiting for questions, this is another poll question, which is, would you like our assistance in with your Solution Manager project if you have one right now? So just, just ping us or use this quick poll to reach out to us if you have a question. Just gonna leave it up for a few more seconds. And again, if you have a question, you can drop it on the questions pane. Okay, I don't see any more questions coming in, so really appreciate your attendance here today, and thank you, Donick, for hosting the webinar, and thank you again for attending the webinar. As Donick mentioned earlier, this is part of a series of webinars that we're hosting, so you can head on to our website to register for the upcoming webinars, and we really appreciate your presence. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact us. You'll receive a follow-up email shortly with the link to today's recording. And on behalf of everyone here at Core ELM and Donick, thank you for joining us, and have a great weekend ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Adam.